What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Fat People with Opinions. I'm Taylor Renee.
And I'm Isaiah.
And we're so happy to have you back.
Welcome back, niggas.
Okay. I tried to be so pop and fluffy and professional, and then this nigga just can't help but be himself.
Welcome back. We're here again with wine.
And alcohol.
And other things. And we're here to discuss all things fat. With an opinion.
With our opinions.
Okay.
What has been going on with you this week?
I mean, I really don't have anything. I feel like there's a rant simmering inside of me, but I don't really know if I want to, really lean into this rant. I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
So, my week has been fine. It's kind of stressful because we have taken on a new client at work, and that's come with all these different obstacles. First of all, let me just say this. Check on your old white aunties who are out here working in...
Not your old white
your old white aunties who are out here still in the workplace, interacting with technology. Because those bitches are getting on my nerves. They're getting on my nerves. I had someone ask me how to attach a file to an email at work. No. And it's like...
In 2019, if you can't do that at your office job, you shouldn't be here.
And I don't and this is no shade because I feel like everyone has to get their money. Everyone has to get their money. And at the end of the day, capitalism is requiring that niggas are working later in their lifetime and that they're working all the way up until the day that they die. I mean, that's horrible, but that's what people are being called to do based off of the need to work. But it's like... I don't understand why employers don't vet this kind of shit. Because it's like, and again, I'm not saying that these people shouldn't be working, but I feel like when you're in a situation where you're interacting with technology every single day, if you can't attach a file to an email, sis.
What are we doing?
And the reason I'm about saying this is because it's related to my other rant. I'm sorry I hit the mic. It's related to my other rant. So, I don't know if y'all have been paying attention to this okay boomer shit. Have you been paying attention?
I have used it a few times in the office as well.
So, I haven't even been like on the social medias, on the interwebs, looking at the different hashtags. But I've seen people responding to it, and it's really starting to get on my nerves. First of all, I feel like I don't understand when like this whole millennial slander has become like...
Because we've been killing industries since we were born, apparently.
A commonplace. Like, it's just so easy for people to say, like, to just blame millennials. The reason that the world is a horrible place is because millennials. The reason that, we're in a financially precarious situation as a society is because millennials aren't interacting with the economy enough. They're not spending as much money. They're not buying homes. They're not purchasing cars. Meanwhile, nobody takes into consideration the fact that all of us are fucking paralyzed by student loan debt, number one.
Or, like, don't have jobs that pay any bills at all.
Okay.
Regardless of whether or not we have degrees.
That as well, in addition to other things. And then it's also like it's just so easy. And it's like people will make these sweeping statements about like the psyche of the millennial, like the psychological the mental state of a millennial. And it's like they'll say things like they're entitled. They'll say things like they're impatient. They'll say things like they're only attached to their phone. They're like emotionally distant, unavailable, that kind of thing. But I'm sitting here like there's never any kind of critical thinking attached to these statements that they're making, and they never take into consideration things like race, sexuality, gender, class, like which I'm feeling like I don't know too many Black poor people who are entitled.
Entitled to what?
Right.
Would be the question.
And then when you say entitled, let's really break this down. Let's really have a conversation about this. What does entitlement look like? Are you saying we're entitled because we want things like healthcare? Healthcare is a human right. That's entitlement.
Literally, it's a legal human right, but okay.
Healthcare is a human right. Housing should be a human right. We live in a civilized country. Everyone should have a home because you need to have a home in order to be a functioning member of society. I don't know. Shoot me. I'm a witch. Burn me, bitch. I don't know why that's fucking rocket science. Like, these are the things that we're feel entitled to have, and that's making us entitled. I don't really understand that. But then it's also like, I was watching The View. Y'all know I go up for The View, even though they get on my nerves, problematic faves. I was watching
every last one of them too is a problematic fave.
Except Sunny Hostin. I love her. Down. I love her. Down. To infinity and the fuck beyond.
I'm going to refrain from commenting.
I mean, she... Okay. She doesn't... I feel like she doesn't lean as left as I want her to. Mm-hmm. But I feel like when I'm looking at all the other bitches on this panel...
Yeah, but you can't just be like, because you are the least evil, I love you. Like, that's not how this works.
Don't do that. Sunny is not evil. She just is, I feel like...
She's also not great.
We could really get into a fight right now on this podcast about Sunny Hostin because I love her down. Because everyone on that panel, she's the one that's consistently stating facts. Who is...
I don't disagree with you.
Who doesn't have... Like, who's willing to... Like, hold people accountable to stating the truth when they're on the show. Like, the guests that they be having on the show, everyone is throwing softball questions to these guests. Sunny Hostin will be like, no, that was a lie. I remember when Don Jr. was on, Trump's son was on there, she was like, you're lying. She said, you're lying on the show. That's a lie. And I was like, Sunny, go in. Tell him he's lying. Because Megan wasn't saying the fuck anything. So I go up for Sunny. But they were talking about the okay boomer thing. And essentially they were like, Abby, her immediate response was, I've learned so much from my elders. So I feel like, I don't understand why it is that we just, wouldn't want to listen to our elders. And I'm sitting here like, okay, bitch, first of all, you really bring nothing to the conversation. Let's be clear. Number one. Number two, what are you talking about? Nobody said that, no, we don't listen to our elders. We're talking about how the world that we're going to inherit is so much more fucked up because of these niggas. Mm-hmm. Like, that's essentially the point. But she missed that. And then that parlayed into a conversation about how, like, advice that a baby boomer would give a millennial trying to apply for a job is to not just submit job applications online, but to, like, actually go to the place of employment and demonstrate your interest by showing up in person. And Whoopi was like, Whoopi and everyone on the panel was like, oh, that's really, really good advice. Like, you should do that. I don't see the problem with that. And I'm sitting here like, none of you
y'all
bitches
have not applied for jobs. How many times have you walked into a place and been like, hey, you have applications? And they're like, they're online. One. And then also, that shit doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't work anymore, but y'all really don't live in 29th the fuck teen, but you really don't. Because I have literally seen on job posting websites, don't call us, don't show up, because the number of applications, there's a huge number of applications that they don't want you to do any of those things. They just want to review them online. And then it's like, when you go to the job, you're not going to get in touch with the person who's going to be like the hiring manager.
Right.
You're just going to the nigga that's there working the shift that you show up. Right.
The same job that you applying for. And he talking about, I don't know.
He's like, bitch,
that's not part of my job. Right.
I came in here to get my coin and the fuck leave, bitch. I don't know what the fuck you're asking me for. So it's like, they're so disconnected from reality, they can't even understand what the purpose is of this whole okay boomer conversation. And then at what point are we going to have a conversation about, like, if we're this horrible generation, right? If we're this horrible generation who's entitled, who is only, who's always on their phone, who can't seem to, take no for an answer, who grew up all being told that they're winners and everyone deserves a trophy just for participating, which I feel like people say shit like that, and I feel like I've never encountered an actual instance of that. Like, I've never encountered an instance of that. I've never seen an instance where, I don't remember an instance growing up where it's like, I just got a trophy for participating.
Not ever.
Like, I don't understand why that's a thing.
That was not an us thing.
So I don't get that. But because they say all these things about us, at what point are you going to take responsibility for the fact that y'all are the ones that raised us?
Okay, that was where I was going with that as well. Who raised us? Also, we've only been here for 35 years? You're blaming the decline of this whole ass economy on someone who has only been here for 35 years.
It's not adding up, sis. I'm sorry, it's not coming across. It's really not translating. It's a no for me, dog, in the words of Randy Jackson.
It's a no for me, dog.
It's a hard no for me. Because I'm not understanding how you're able to come to this conclusion that we are the decline of the American society, the American institution, when, again, we've only been here for 2 minutes.
We're not even old enough to be president yet, but it's our fault.
And then, to your point, like you said, 35 years. The millennial generation is expansive because it's like there are millennials who are 35 and there are millennials who are 23,
22,
22. So it's like there's so much complexity and difference in between those age groups in that the millennials who were born in the 80s had a completely different experience. They were like computers weren't things that were in their home. It's like they had to be introduced into the home. I still was kind of part of that generation too. Because we were poor, we didn't have a computer in the house until like I purchased it for myself, and that wasn't until I was in like at the end of high school, college. So it's like that's just been my experience. So it's like there's so much more nuance to the conversation and it's like all that gets glossed over when you just make sweeping statements about an entire group of people. Right. And at what point are we going to talk about how like essentially that's an extension of ageism? Like
except that I was reading about this the other day because I read an article about how okay boomer is not allowed in some workplaces because it is an ageist statement and it is slander against a protected group. But the only protected group is people over, I want to say 65 or something like that.
Right.
So you can't use ageism going down. You can only use it going up.
Right.
So basically, y'all can say anything you want about us, but the moment we say something about you, there are like legal ramifications. Right. It's wild.
That's really horrible. And again, I was making fun about my white work aunties who get on my nerves because they don't know technology, but I'm just annoyed because I feel like, to your point, like you just said, it's clear that we have to take care and consideration when talking about our elders because they're our elders. But there's no care to talk about like just human beings. You know what I'm saying? Like this whole conversation of millennials versus okay boomers versus Generation Z. It's like, why don't we not just make sweeping statements about entire generations for everyone so that way we don't come across these issues? Because again, there's so much complexity and nuance that you're missing when you're just saying that, you know, Generation Z acts a specific way, millennials act a specific way, and that shit is lazy. I feel like it's a lazy intellectual argument. There's nothing.
It's not intellectual at all. It's also like, why would you wouldn't make sweeping statements about someone based on their race. I mean, you would if you were a racist. I just don't understand how you could loop a whole group of people into one thing based on when they were born. Like,
and again, I think it's lazy as fuck. But that's just been my beef. It's just, don't do it. Please don't do it. Because I'm going to drag you. Because I'm going to say, the reason that the American society has declined is because baby boomers, you know, are only interested in greed.
Well, that's correct.
Who are only having interest in greed and put greed above their families. And I would make the statement that Joy made on The View, that y'all really don't care about your grandchildren because y'all acting like climate change doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. You want your grandchildren to die? I will say some shit like that because, bitch, guess what? You're not gonna come for me for wanting a fucking, you know, avocado toast, right? Okay, bitch. You're not gonna come for me.
You're not gonna come for me because I don't use paper napkins anymore.
Okay, you're not gonna come for me because, bitch, I know how to attach a document to a fucking email. Okay. I'm sorry. I just went on the whole rant. But that just made me mad. But it's okay. We're done. My week has been fine.
I got into like a personal life tiff. I got into like this big argument with my nigga. And I had to realize some shit about myself. I am never wrong, one. And I don't like to admit that I'm ever wrong, two.
Okay, so wait. Let me just wait. I'm sorry, because I can't. When things are said and I have questions, I have to ask them when they pop in my mind. So when you say things like, I am never wrong,
it's saying... incorrect.
Okay.
I understand that it's incorrect.
Okay.
But I feel as though I am never wrong.
Okay.
It is hard to tell me that I'm wrong because I can find a point to argue that supports me no matter what side of the argument I am on. And that works really well in my professional life. But in my personal life, it doesn't go so well all the time.
I really appreciate your self-awareness in this moment because when you are saying the things that you're saying... You're not telling lies. I just need you to understand. We call it self-righteousness where I'm from.
It's just, I can find a thing that supports my side of the argument and I will argue it to the end of the earth. But the thing is that I had to, you know, realize that I was wrong in the situation. I really had my nigga fucked up. It was disrespectful. We got through it. It was hard though.
So, okay, let's talk about this. Was it a situation where you had a conversation? Like, how was it that you were able to come to the conclusion that, you know, in this situation you were in the wrong, or that there's something that you
well, no, see, the thing is, it can't, for me, as of right now anyway, having a conversation in the heat of the moment does not work for me, because like I said, I will find a point and I will argue it. I am not wrong. There's no way to tell me that I'm wrong, because I have a point that makes sense.
Okay.
So what had to happen for me was, I think it was like the next day he went to work and I was just sitting here on the couch like...
thinking about what he was saying.
Thinking about all the stuff that had happened previously. But what I realized from this whole situation is that people judge you by your actions. You judge yourself by your intentions. So even though I had no intentions of doing anything with this nigga, the fact that my actions showed that he had all of this access to me in a home that does not belong to him, that I share with another nigga, was wrong.
And it's crazy because I remember one of my old bosses used to say that to me all the time. She used to say intention versus impact. It's like, we are not privy to your intentions.
Right.
And I think that we can get an indication of your intentions through your action. Like, regardless of how you feel like something is going to come across, if your intentions don't matter, if it still comes across crazy, like, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the effect is the same. So what you learn from that is that when a instance happens where you have to communicate with your significant other about something that's bothering you or bothering them, you learn that it's better to not address it immediately in the situation, because you feel like it's going to become about arguing that person's point as opposed to actually hearing them.
I get defensive very quickly, and I have to find a way to protect myself rather than listen to what's going on with them. Girl,
that is a realization. Oh my God. That is a realization. I feel like I'm the same way. And it's not even just with significant others. I think even when talking to like my mom or like a family member or a friend.
You're not here yet. We should have left you outside.
Not this. But I don't like the way he said you're a friend. Don't do that, bitch. What you trying to say? I don't be saying nothing crazy to y'all. I don't get defensive with my friends. I just tell the truth, because like you, I'm always right. Okay? I am never wrong. Okay? Because...
period.
Exclamation point. How did you apologize? Like, are you like a... I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm a hold my hand, let me talk to you.
And look at you in your eyes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Taylor. Yeah, so then you just said that you were sorry. I need to work on... Never mind, I feel like I'm good at apologizing. Now I'm realizing... I'm good at apologizing.
I don't generally have to apologize because I'm never wrong.
Not this after you drink this wine. I never have to apologize. So I'm super excited. We have our first guest here on the podcast.
Our first fat person, number 3.
Yes. And...
yes, honey, number 3.
Everyone say hello to Topher D. Say hi, nigga.
Hi, guys. I'm Topher D. I'm doing well today.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm 25. I've identified as fat my whole life, or at least since I was 13. I am 354 pounds. I am a 46-32 in pants, and I wear a 3XL shirt.
Okay. And we're excited to have Topher D on because he represents an experience that neither Taylor or I have, in that he has gone and been to a fat camp. So we're going to ask him some questions about that whole experience and really break that down to provide that fat perspective, because bitches need to know, okay? They need to know what's going on behind closed doors.
I'm very curious about this story.
Right. But first, just because I'm super interested to hear what he's going to say about fashion, I just want to ask you a question as our first guest. What is one of your biggest fashion gripes as a fat bitch? Like, what's one of the things that just, grinds your gears?
It really mashes your potatoes.
Really, it's just 2 things. One, I don't like the fact that certain fashion doesn't go past a certain size.
Amen.
Okay. Like, I remember during the ages of when H&M was the shit for me, and I wanted those red and blue skinny jeans, and they didn't go above a size 44, and I was sitting there thinking like, wow.
Well, I don't know. Hold on, because we need to break... I'm sorry. Because H&M, I feel like never has gone to a 44. It wasn't until recently that they actually expanded their plus size.
In 2013... they had those red and blue pants in a size 44.
I disagree. I don't think that's the truth.
2014.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think they started because they didn't have plus size women's fashion until like recently.
Right, until like last year.
So I know for sure that I think you're talking about another brand. Are you talking about like an American Eagle?
Actually, you are right. It was American Eagle.
Okay, bitch. I'm like,
I was gonna say I remember those pants because I remember stealing them from you.
Right. American Eagle, low key, in my height of fatdom. American Eagle used to really dress the girls.
In the height of fat dumb.
They used to really dress the girls because I used to get like skinny jeans from American Eagle. I could get like shirts. American Eagle really looked out because they definitely went to larger sizes.
But I'm sorry, I felt weird that like a 44 was considered extreme plus size for a guy. And at this point in time, I was 52. So it was really like...
Bitch, you weren't wearing clothes. Like,
Exactly.
you needed the whole bolt of fabric, bitch, to really,
to get like
dress your body.
And it really sucked. Like I remember going to Foreman Mills and like I would have to walk past all the shit I actually wanted to wear to get to the big and tall section in the back of the fucking store. And then also as a big person, especially, I thought because I was gay, it was more easy for me to transition into like wearing women's clothing. Mm-hmm. But like women's clothing as like big clothing is more frequent and abundant than like men's clothing. Mm-hmm. Like I could walk into a Rainbow right now and find a size 28 jean for a woman.
I don't know that that's true.
But I could fit a size 28 jean. You know what I mean?
I definitely do think that you alluded to something that I experienced as well, is that as a gay person, and I also feel like I've heard other fat men talk about this, because plus size fashion brands really started to unfold before like the men's plus size wave came on.
Exactly.
So I feel like in terms of a jean, I don't think they really wore, I mean, niggas weren't really wearing like dresses and
shit like that
until like now when the whole, unisex androgyny trend, came into play. But before, like you can get a skinny jean from, if like the skater jean, the skinny jean, you can wear a woman's jean and it would look like a whole, look. Yes. It would be a look. And at least they stretched, at least
back in the days of Dots and Fashion Bug. And
I mean, I never shopped at those places.
Neither did I.
Because I feel like by the time I could afford clothing, they were,
a little young for me.
That and gone.
And I was finding like jeans and like granted some of them were like not really in style, but I didn't really know that at the time. I just found clothes in my size and was excited.
It was exciting. Yeah, I remember those days just being like, especially like going out to the mall with like your friends. All of my friends were skinny, so like going to the mall shopping with them, it was like if we were in a store and there was something that I could fit into, I would buy it just for that.
And I feel the exact same way, where it was like me and Isaiah have gone to the Goodwill on Main Street on many of a shopping trip. Mm-hmm. And I remember buying that burgundy sweater just because it was the only thing I picked. I would pick out like 10, 12 items and then go into the dressing room and none of that shit would fit. And it would always be too small.
I never really struggled with like finding clothes that fit up top as much as I struggled to find clothes that fit the bottom.
Bitch, say it again.
Because you can stretch some shit out. You know what I'm saying?
You can stretch your shirt out. These thighs, certain pants, we're not going in.
And if it doesn't stretch, it's not going to work.
Shout out to episode 2.
It's not going to work. And you can't stretch. There's a lot of material that they make in pants. Like specifically when you talk about like chinos or you talk about like dress pants, those pants they don't make in kind of like forgiving fabrics. It's kind of like, bitch, you really have to wear a true to size. I really feel like I need to start constructing garments because I have visions, okay?
I agree with you completely.
Because I feel like there's ways that you can make clothing for fat people that's trendy, that's in, that's comfortable. because I feel like I've experienced it. So it's really not as hard as niggas make it seem like it is, but whatever. That's a conversation for another day. We did that episode already. Let's talk about...
The way that you take down the word garments takes me down every time. I need to really start making garments.
Yes, honey. Get into that crawl. Garments.
It's really important, okay? My voice is literally up here, and then when I say garment, it's like, bitch, I'm a bass. Okay. But let's get into the interview.
Bass.
So we brought Topher D onto the show because he's had an experience that we've never had before. Like Zay said earlier, Topher has been to a fat camp, and we are dying to like pick his brain about it. So tell us about this fat camp. How did you get introduced to it?
So around the time of like, I say my freshman, sophomore year of high school, once I started getting fat, my family took an interest in like me losing weight because there was like, because diabetes runs in my family, high blood pressure runs in my family. Granted, they were the ones that don't have it, but they were very adamant about you're not going to die from being fat. So after trying different shit around my sophomore year of high school, they sent me to the weight management program at AI DuPont. And that, the fat camp, well, the lifestyle change camp.
Oh, we're not going to call it a fat camp. Okay.
Was their way of making what they were trying to teach you in the weight loss program fun.
Okay. So then let me just get a little bit of backstory. So you're saying that what happened was because your family has this history of like diabetes and like high blood pressure, that they wanted to do something about your weight. Was it ever a situation, because you said it was like you're not going to die because from being fat? Was that like the stakes? Like, did they make it seem like it was that serious when they were having conversations about addressing it? They did.
Yes. All of my life. Like, I remember, I don't even know what it was, but I had we had ate dinner. And then, like, you know, dinner was over. My mom was in her room. I was in my room. My grandfather wasn't there. And the house was empty at the time. It was quiet. I remember going down, like, still hungry and eating the rest of it because I never really lived in a lifestyle to where, like,
people policed the food. Like
before this moment in time.
Right.
And I remember my mom finding out that I ate it and, like, I got, like, a beating. And then, like, after the beating, I remember her talking to me about it, and she started, like, crying. And, like, I don't want you to die. I don't want anything to happen to you. I don't want you to die from being fat. Because apparently, like, almost dying from being fat was something that, like, on her side of the family, my uncle, her mother, my Aunt Kim, like, you know, my Aunt Kim had a situation where she almost had to get her leg amputated because of her diabetes. So, like, my mom is real, ugh.
I mean, and understandably so. When you think about the history of your family, I can understand why someone has that kind of response.
But I think she approached you incorrectly.
Right. I was going to say, when you're 8, you're just like, bitch, all
I'm hungry. I want all the flavors.
I just wanted some Fruit Loops. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But you know what I mean? Like, it was from, like, a very young age, food was really, like, policed in my life.
Looking back at it now, you kind of talked about this already. Looking back at it now, do you feel like... What's your perspective on her approach to the situation? Like, obviously, nobody should be beaten for wanting to eat, but like considering how she talked about it in later times, or like how your family approached it, do you feel like that's a healthy way, or would you raise your children in kind of the same way around food?
No, because like now with Sarah and Jada, like I'm very adamant to where it's like fat is not a bad thing. They eat when they're hungry, and when they're not, they don't. So they have a healthier relationship with food to where weight isn't an issue for them.
How do you think that healthy relationship was facilitated? Like, do you think it was something that you guys were doing?
So it was an active effort of like, oh, like Sarah, like if you said, do you want Doritos or these 2 apples. She would say, "Are they Granny Smith apples?" Because she likes the green apples, and she will eat 2 apples rather than getting Doritos. And like that was an active.
So moving back to the fat camp situation. So you had like went to this weight management program, and what was that like? Was it like
It was kind of everything. I had like a team of people that were trying to educate me on how to live healthy. For the first time, I was having the conversation about weight loss, but it wasn't a pound conversation. It was about, okay, all I want you to do is try to be active 1 hour a day.
So when you said you have a team of people, what was like the team? It was like
I had a nutritionist, I had a exercise specialist, I had a physical therapist, I saw an adolescent psychiatrist.
come on, resources, upper echelon.
Right. This is a lot.
Right. So you had a team. You had a team
Yes,
of
I had
people.
a team of people.
And they were dedicated specifically to you, or like
During my appointment time, they were. Yes.
And what was like, was this something that was covered through your insurance?
Yes.
It was. Okay. It was covered through your insurance. So shout out to Access. I really appreciate this multi-pronged approach to attacking this issue. I mean, I'm feeling weird about like this desperation to lose weight, because I feel like, okay, let's really, is it truly as desperate as people are making it seem to be? But that's another conversation. But I appreciate the fact that it wasn't just like, oh, let's put him on a treadmill and then put him on this super restrictive diet.
Yes, it was more like interactive than that. But to touch on what you said, I do completely agree with you. But what I do feel after being in that program, I should not have been in there. And I see why I was only in there for the 2.5 years I was. Because the other people that were there needed like to lose weight. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to fat shame, but like there was this one girl who like she was in a wheelchair, not because she couldn't walk, not because there was something wrong with her, but because she had gotten so big that nerves in her back were pinching, and like sometimes she would lose her ability to walk in the middle of walking. You know what I mean? Or he was so big that his legs were warping underneath of the weight on top. So it's like, I feel that I'm glad I went because it did everything that it needed to do. You know, my hemoglobin AC1 went down, or A1C went down. Like, it did what it was supposed to do. But I feel like I don't know if I was necessarily at the state of desperation that the program was designed for.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think that just what you just described, people have made it seem like the body positivity movement, fat people who are on social media and are just like okay with being fat, that they don't really acknowledge the real ramifications of like obesity on their health and things like that. And it's like, I hate that, because nobody's trying to convince anyone to be fat. I just want to make sure that's clear. No one's acting like being fat doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be, consequences to your health. Nobody's doing that.
Right.
And when you try to make the conversation seem like that's what's going on, you're missing the whole fucking point of why people feel like they have to say something, like why they're exercising their voice.
Yes. It's not about, oh, I want to be fat, or we all should be fat.
There's some people who would rather like be dead than be fat. Like, that is a legitimately
be dead.
Like, there are people who legitimately feel like being fat is the worst possible thing that you can be. And I'm sitting here like, bitch, you just are an unhappy bitch. Because guess what? I am.
Because you could be so many terrible things. Terrible things.
You could be Donald Trump.
Okay.
Like, there's so many things that you could be.
You could be the vice president. What's his name?
Mike Pence. Michael. So when you had like the exercise coach, before you even got to the camp, did they have like any kind of exercise program that they were instituting, and like a diet program?
There was an exercise program, but it was like I went there.
So it was like exercise therapy, like physical therapy type time.
Yes, it was like I went there and I would be there for like an hour, and it was like Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays if I wanted to.
Okay, so take us through a day at camp. So like, what was the camp like, first of all? Was it like we're all staying in like a hotel and we meet in the lobby, or
Bitch, no, not at all. Camp looked like fucking camp. Like,
so you were in the wilderness, bitch.
Bitch, it looked like the fucking Parent Trap.
I'm going home.
it's a no for me.
A hard no.
When I tell you, I went there, like, and the bitch was fucking with me because, like, she said, "Oh yeah, oh that's why you brought your sleeping bag because we sleep outside in the stars under one light." And I said, "Pop out, I want to go home right now
immediately."
And
outside in the stars. No, it's a no for me.
Cabin that I was in, it looked like the fucking Parent Trap. There were these 2 wooden slabs off the fucking wall, and the mattress was like out of a crib, like a literal plastic mattress out of a fucking crib. Like it was like the Parent Trap.
So you were sleeping like outside?
No.
Okay.
I was sleeping in a cab. There was the door on my cabin was a shower curtain.
So essentially you were sleeping out. You were sleeping in an enclosed space. However,
there was a roof.
But yeah, there was a roof. However, we were outside.
Were there animals?
Yes.
Oh no.
And the killer could make his way into the fortress.
No.
You tell me, it literally looked like the camp that like Jason was at, except instead of there being a lake, it was a real pool.
No, my mother is coming to pick me up. I'll be on the
immediately.
Bitch,
I'm that bitch. You ever see the meme?
They
of that
knew
man?
they knew that was a thing. That's why you couldn't have your cell phones.
You ever seen that meme of that man who's like calling the people, and he's bald and he's black and he has glasses? You know that meme I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That was me. As soon as they told me that we are not sleeping,
So it wouldn't have been you because they would have taken your cell phone.
it would be me. I'm getting myself and I'm making my way back home.
No, there was no cell. So like you would wake up, it'd be like 7 something, and like they will do the wake up call, but you didn't have to wake up immediately, and we would all like avene like outside, and then we would all start walking down to the mess hall that was like a mile away.
A mile
away. And how you were at this camp for how long? Like a week, 2 weeks?
9 days.
9 days.
9 days. Okay. So then...
And every morning you woke up and walked a mile on an empty ass stomach. Is what you're telling me right now?
To get to the mess hall.
This is offensive.
It wasn't a whole... It was like 0.5, 0.75 a mile. I remember them telling us it was like 0.75 of a mile.
That's still 3/4. You took 3 laps around the track on an empty stomach is what you're telling me?
Yes. And like it didn't really feel... Like it didn't feel that way because I remember...
911.
I lost like 24 pounds in that week.
Oh my God.
Like, and I just remember, like, I was so, like, it didn't, like, you don't feel it. Like, it's kind of like in Color Guard when you're in high school and you're walking the boardwalk in Wildwood. And then you go back as a grown person and you're like, bitch, I really walked this
like,
shit?
my fucking knees hurt, my back hurts, my ass hurts, my fucking face hurts because it's, I don't know.
Like, you just be like, when I was a kid, I didn't care about none of that shit. I walked it. So, like I think it was different because we were in a group. It was you and 7 other motherfuckers. And let's not forget that we were the camp junior counselors, which really was only a title they gave to the niggas that were over 17 because we weren't in one of the other groups. We were treated just like campers. I thought I was getting special treatment because I was a junior.
That's a special treatment. Look like at fat camp. Extra snacks.
Like,
sorry, that was offensive.
I mean, it really wasn't because, bitch, I want to know. I have some fucking seniority in this bitch. I better get can I get an extra, yogurt? Can I get an extra?
Yes.
Granola bar.
Okay.
We would go to the mess hall and we would have like, I forget what they called it, but it was a teaching moment where like they would teach us some life shit.
This is before you ate.
Yeah, because breakfast wasn't until like 8:15, so it was like from like 7:30 to 8:15. We were doing this shit.
Well, it's gonna take me that whole 45 minutes just to walk this mile.
No, it really only took us like 15 minutes. It only took a really long time to walk, but like I said, was someone who felt like he wanted to burst into tears with every step he took.
Oh my God. And maybe that's part of why, I don't know, maybe we should have an episode about like the privilege, like even within fatness, there's different experiences and we don't experience a fatness that's like immobilizing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't impact our ability to do certain things in the same way that it may impact other people. So maybe that's another perspective that we need to have represented over on the show, because that's not our experience.
Because I say that because even like with the Lizzo situation, like Lizzo's big as shit, but like she's still dancing and twerking and moving and active. So like she experiences a different fat than somebody who's her same size and is not active.
I mean, I feel like, is she really that big? I feel like she's big, but I'm like, is Lizzo really that big?
She's not big when it comes to like, we're talking about like some people are like 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds big. But when we come into the world that she's in, she is big.
Yeah.
She's fat, duh. But it's like...
I mean, she's big for an entertainer as well. Like the rest of the entertainers around her are not as big as her. But in the world of fatness, she's not
really that
big, bitch.
But what I mean is like, I feel like that's the difference, is that like she's an active fat. There's two types of fat. Sometimes you're just going to get fat even if you're active. And then sometimes...
I mean, I wouldn't say two types. I would just say that there's a variety of experiences, and there's some people who experience fatness that's like immobilizing.
Yes,
in that they can't really or aren't really active and can't be active because of the impact on their body.
Right.
And then
but I feel like there was an inactivity in between the journey of you being mobile and immobile.
I would assume so. I don't know what everyone's experience is, because I don't know, sometimes something happened before they got fat where they became immobile. Like if you experience some sort of disease or you experience some sort of like injury and that caused you to gain weight. So that could be with somebody else's experience. But we say all that to say that we don't experience that whole
immobile fat.
We don't experience that at all. So getting back to the fat camp, the fact that you had this friend who was really struggling.
Yeah, like I didn't like the fact that like there wasn't really
like they didn't pay any attention to that. It was like he just has to get through the exercises and the work.
When you have 8 teenagers that are doing some shit that they don't want to do, and one of them is bitching more than the rest of them, the conversation turns really, really interesting and attacking towards him.
What was breakfast? Let's go back. Tell us about breakfast. Was it like, did you feel like you were satiated throughout this experience? Like, did you ever feel hungry during the day? You felt like you were adequately fed? Did breakfast give you enough energy to get through the day?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also feel like breakfast taught you portion control.
Okay.
In the sense of like, I don't know about you guys, but up until fat camp, my breakfasts, like when I actually ate breakfast, it was like, I want bacon, I want eggs, I want some French toast, I want a little bit of grits, like it was...
You were eating, bitch. Yeah. You were eating.
For them, it was just like, breakfast was like 2 sausage links and a slice of French toast.
2 sausage links.
And a slice of bread with some sugar on it.
Maybe.
No, it was really... like you got like a little syrup cup.
You're laughing and I'm very angry.
I feel like I'm just calling Child Protective Service.
Was this like a brioche slice of French toast? Like a nice thick Texas
like
toast?
it wasn't like no like...
It was like white Wonder Bread.
We
was going to fight this Fire Festival ass breakfast.
Prison breakfast.
It wasn't like a thin...
me Oz.
It wasn't like a thin slice of French toast. It was almost like a Texas toast, but it wasn't really that thick. It was like this. If you wanted to get full on like meat or like bread, that wasn't going to happen. But if you wanted to fill yourself up on some
fruit
or some low fat, vanilla yogurt with some granola on top.
So they gave you the app. So it was like you could pick different shit.
Here's what I'm going to say. You were not starved. Every 2 hours, you were fed.
Okay.
But it was every 2 hours, you got the proper portion of food you were supposed to get if you're eating every 2 hours.
Okay. So then you had breakfast.
And then it was like a thing. So she would be like, hey, campers. And we'd be like, what's poppin'? And she'd be like, we're going on a hike on Death Mountain.
Death Mountain.
Okay, like it was a lot to get through Death Mountain, but once you got to the top of Death
with
Mountain,
a name like Death,
it's kind of like in drum corps when you go to Death Camp. Like you hate every single minute of it, but at the end of Death Camp, the show looks amazing, so it's okay.
I thought you were gonna say something like, but at the end of Death Camp, you're so happy with what you did, and I was gonna be like, was I though?
So was that always the thing that y'all did every day? Is that y'all did a hike up Death Mountain, or was it a different activity?
It was a different thing every day. Death Mountain was something that we got to look forward to.
So in the event that you did not want to do the activity, could you opt out?
I mean, like,
was there ever a situation where you felt like you didn't want to do it?
I mean, I didn't want to do anything.
So did you like try to opt out?
No. I remember what it was I remember it was this. It's like, if you really didn't want to do it, you could not do it.
So you're saying that, but then I'm thinking back to you telling us about your friend who was having actual issues walking from the cabins to the mess hall, right, and still had to do it every day for 9 days.
Well, because regardless of if he wanted to get to the mess hall or not, or whether he wanted to walk or not, at this point in time, he was a miles walk away from even getting to the parking lot for his parents to come get him. So you would have to go and do an activity, and then you would have snack. And that snack would be something healthy, like a carrot with some peanut butter. Later, you for 2 hours, you would do an activity, and you'd have lunch. And lunch would be like a chicken salad sandwich in a side.
So it sounds like, because this is one of my problems when it comes to eating, they didn't give you a lot of downtime. They filled up your time with activities.
Yes.
Because my thing is, when I get bored, I like to eat.
Yes.
I feel like that was something they kind of broke me out of.
One of the things I like that you discussed so far is that when I was in the height of losing weight, one of the things that I like taught myself was that, oh, eating is bad. Like when I was like in the height of like, I want to lose as much weight as quickly as possible, eating is bad. So I restricted my diet and really did not eat as much as I feel like I should have been eating. Like I remember eating like 1,500 calories a fucking day. Like who the fuck eats, bitch?
Starvation.
Also known as eating twigs and berries, bitch. So what I liked about them is that really you can eat and lose weight at the same time. Like that's something that I learned too. It's not about eating. It's about how much you eat and what you eat. And up and until that week, I had been encouraged to not eat. Mm-hmm. You're eating too fucking much. Right. My uncle said this to me on fucking Thanksgiving. I was like, you know what? My weight has really been going up and down lately. Did this nigga talk about, oh, you've been going through a lot of stress? Oh, you started working jobs where you're only cooking now and you're around more free food? Did he talk about that? No. The first thing out of his mouth was, okay, and the fork keep going up and down. Like...
Okay, because I would...
And I would have said, I would have threw that fork across the room, but now it's going across.
Now
I would have stabbed him in his eye with said fork. Right. Now the fork is inside.
That's just like, that's the life. And that's my entire family has this attitude. And other than me, I'm what's breaking it in Sarah and Jada. Mm-hmm. They all have this, oh, if you want to lose weight, you need to stop eating so fucking much. Right. But meanwhile, none of them have ever lost weight.
Also, and I appreciate you doing this with Sarah and Jada, like, people really just need to talk to their kids about things that are going on in their kids' lives. Right. Because for me, I can only speak for myself, but for me, my relationship with food comes solely out of comfort. Mm-hmm. When I'm going through something, I mean, comfort and boredom. When I'm going through something, I comfort myself with food. Right. And someone telling me to eat less is not helpful. It's not going to help the things going on that are causing me to eat. Like, it doesn't address the problem. It only addresses what I am considering the solution to said problem. It's not a solution, but like the bandage to said problem.
Right. Yes. And a lot of people talk about how it's a manifestation of like a need to control something. Mm-hmm. Like some people, I don't know if it was ever that for me, but some people use like what they eat and what they consume as a way to, because something may have happened to them where they were in a position where they didn't have control of a situation, and control was taken away from them. So they used eating as a way to kind of usurp some sort of control over their life.
Reaffirm that they have control in some situations.
I've heard a lot of people with like bulimia say that. Like it was everything else in their life was out of control, and like now, like what goes in my body I can control. How much weight I gain, what I can eat, you know, I can eat whatever I want, and then I can throw up and it not affect me.
I think a lot of eating disorders stem from the need to have some sort of agency over your own body.
Right. And you probably can say the same thing about like overeating, maybe to some capacity.
Yeah, for sure.
So they did all this stuff where they, you know, kind of like covertly address weight with you in a way that wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make this about weight. I'm going to make this about nutrition. I'm going to make this about dieting. But we're going to try to institute this in kind of like a lifestyle fashion. But did they weigh you multiple times? They did.
You got weighed and measured when you got there, and you got weighed and measured the day. Like, as we were all at the top of the pavilion waiting for our parents to get there, we got weighed and measured.
So we're not going to sit here and pretend like this wasn't a fat camp then. We're not going to pretend like this.
The reason why I say it wasn't a fat camp is that because everything that we did there, or everything that they tried to get you to do there, was some shit you could do at home.
Were bitches sneaking food in? Tell the tea. Don't be lying.
Not really sneaking. Not really sneaking food in. Yes, I did, but not really sneaking food in. I snuck food in, but I didn't really get to eat it.
Lying. He lying, y'all. He lying. He was in every single night before he went to sleep.
There was just
but nobody gained weight.
It was like jail, kind of like how people like where like you ever wonder how like things happen in jail? Like how are you getting like how do you get crack and heroin and weed in jail? You know,
I don't tend to wonder about these things,
right? So. And I hope that's not comparable to, you know, food at a fat camp,
right?
But,
I mean it.
But we really appreciate having you, Topher D.
We really do. Any final statements, last concise bits of anything you want to leave the audience with?
When you think about being fat, or you think about identifying yourself as fat, and you want to go through a weight loss journey or a lifestyle change or a diet or whatever, just make sure that it's sustainable.
Amen.
That's the one thing I learned from Fat Camp. It was, okay, if you're going to set a goal that you can walk a mile every day, don't say I'm going to run an 8-minute mile every morning, because like that's not real. Like that's an achievable goal, but like you're not going to. Let's say
timely.
Yes, let's walk.
And let's be real, bitch. Be real with yourself. You can barely. This is no shade, but you haven't been outside. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like people go into these journeys and they set these expectations for themselves. They're like, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. I'm going to make sure I do 2 hours on the elliptical. And it's like you said, that's not sustainable. Like, if you haven't been to the gym at all,
you're not going to spend 2 hours in the gym. You're going to be there for 30 minutes and be like, bitch, I'm over this shit.
Not even that. I remember the first time I went to the gym when I was in the height of my weight loss, bitch. Literally, I just went into the gym, changed my clothes, and went home. That's what I did.
The first step is just showing up.
And you come in the next day. You said, okay, I'm going to actually get on a machine this time. But thank you so much for coming on. We love you dearly. We'll have to have you back on for a part 2 sometime. Okay.
We'll link his socials in the show notes for y'all, so y'all can follow him and his journey. Did you want to do a weekly consumption? Did you have one? Because I don't have one.
I can do one. It's not going to be long. I can do one.
Okay.
I was recently on like deep in a YouTube black hole of The Voice auditions.
Okay.
And I'm like, every now and again, I have to return to The Voice. Like, I've never been one to like actually watch the show because, first of all, it's nonsense, and I feel like it's low key racist. But that's not the right. So this is the battle. So they do a performance together, and essentially they're supposed to out-sing one another. And this one, I like the way that they approach this. The video is called The Voice 2018 Battle: Dr. King versus Jackie Foster, Sign of the Times. It's on YouTube. I would say look it up. It's really, really good. But they approach this not as like a battle. First of all, they both were on Team Kelly Clarkson, who I'm obsessed with. But they approached it like, we're not going to out-sing each other. We're going to do this like a duet. And when I tell you, I feel like these bitches were really doing like a Grammy performance. Really singing. First of all, their voices blended so well together. And it's crazy because the white girl, she kind of has more of like a power ballad kind of poppy voice, not like small voice. She has a big, large voice where she can belt, but it wasn't like, she didn't really give me too much texture, but she could hit notes. Whereas the black man was really giving you texture. He's giving you, range. He's giving you all these things that I'm obsessed with, but their voices blend so well together. So I definitely would say watch that video. But I went into a whole frenzy watching all those different battles, and it was like, The Voice is low-key like an interesting show because they never have bad singers on there. Like, everyone on there can sing. There's people I would choose over others. However, but it's also interesting because like Gwen Stefani, why were you ever on there? No shade.
Gwen Stefani is not like a bad singer at all.
It's not. I'm not gonna say bad singer is not what I was going to say. You think Gwen Stefani could provide sound and when I'm saying sound, I mean provide any kind of involved, engaged vocal.
Spears can, Gwen Stefani can.
Well, you have me lost there, bitch, because I'm not going to say Britney Spears ever could. Because, honey, she's nobody vocalist. I feel like people who's on this show should be reserved for vocalists. And I'm saying Kelly Clarkson is definitely a vocalist. Mm-hmm. John Legend is definitely a vocalist. Mm-hmm. Adam, I wouldn't even put Adam on there. Yeah. Usher, I would put Usher on there because Usher can sing down. I would say
Jennifer Hudson.
Alicia Keys on there?
Jennifer Hudson could sing. Alicia Keys was on there. Lowest of Keys would feel like Alicia Keys would be on there as well, even though, sometimes...
Stop jingling your belt. I'm going to unplug your mic.
Or that. It's been a lovely episode, y'all.
Thanks for listening to this episode, guys.
No.
It's been a great ride. It's been a long-ass ride. Editing this episode is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to see you next week. Make sure you check out the show notes for all of the relevant information. Like, comment, subscribe. Nope, that's YouTube. Comment, rate,
share.
Review, and share. The reviews really do help us, and so do the ratings. So if anything, do that. Also, I was looking at the analytics, and like 23% of people who downloaded the episodes are not subscribed. Why do you want to be a part of that statistic? Hit that subscribe button so that you get new episodes right when we post them.
Yeah, so do what the fuck she said.
Yeah, the efficiency.
Do what the fuck she said, and thank you so much for listening. We love you.
Bye. We'll see you next week.
Bye.